Emma had always dreamed of a life filled with warmth and love, but the harsh Dakota winter had turned her world upside down. With her husband gone, she was left alone to care for their two young children, Clara and Ben. The biting cold seeped through the thin walls of their cabin, and each day felt like a battle against the elements. Snow fell relentlessly, creating a thick blanket that muffled sounds and cloaked the world in white. As Emma trudged through the deep snow drifts outside their home, she looked down at her children. Clara, the older sister at just 6 years old, clung tightly to her younger brother, Ben, who was only 4. They were bundled in grain sack cloaks that Emma had stitched together from what little resources she had left. The fabric was rough against their skin but provided some warmth against the freezing temperatures. Emma's heart ached at how far they had fallen from the life they once knew. The wind howled like a pack of wolves as Emma led her children on a desperate search for food and warmth. She could feel her strength waning with every step. The cruel betrayal by her in-laws weighed heavily on her shoulders. They had shunned her after her husband's passing, leaving her and the children to fend for themselves. The isolation felt suffocating, much like the snow that surrounded them. Just as despair threatened to swallow them whole, Emma spotted something out of the corner of her eye, a dark figure moving towards them through the swirling snowflakes. Her heart raced as she shielded her children with her arms, hoping it was someone who could help them rather than another threat. The figure drew closer, revealing itself to be Wolf Eyes, a Cheyenne brave known for his strength and kindness. He moved swiftly through the storm, his warm eyes scanning Emma and her children with concern. He knelt beside them and gently brushed away some snowflakes clinging to Clara's cheek. "Come with me," he said softly, his voice steady against the wind's wail. Emma hesitated but understood there were no better options available. With Wolf Eyes leading the way, they followed him to a nearby buffalo hide lodge nestled among the trees. Inside was a refuge from the cold, a place filled with warmth and smells of cooking meat mixed with herbs that made Emma's stomach rumble. Once inside, Wolf Eyes hurried to wrap them in heavy blankets while he stoked a fire in the hearth until it roared back to life. The flames flickered brightly, casting dancing shadows on the walls of the lodge as Clara and Ben snuggled close to each other under their new layers of warmth. For the first time in weeks, Emma felt hope stir within her chest. Maybe this kindness from Wolf Eyes would lead to safety for her family after all. She watched as he prepared food for them, his swift hands working with skill that made it clear he was no stranger to caring for others. In that moment of comfort and care amid uncertainty, Emma realized that perhaps she wasn't truly alone in this vast wilderness after all. Emma had once thought of her in-laws as family, but after her husband's death, their true colors showed. They arrived shortly after the funeral, dressed in black that seemed to absorb any warmth left in Emma's heart. Instead of offering comfort, they brought only harsh words and cold stares. Grief-stricken and vulnerable, Emma found herself the target of their resentments. Her husband's death had rocked their world too, and they blamed her for the burden of raising the children alone. "Why should we support you?" her mother-in-law spat one evening, her voice crisp as the winter air outside. "This is your fault. You have no right to our family's name." Those words cut deeper than any knife could, leaving a wound that would never heal. Emma fought back tears, knowing the truth lay heavy on her shoulders. She was now alone to fend for her little ones. Days passed in a blur of ice and heartache. The once comforting home felt like a prison, walls echoing with loneliness. As the snowfall deepened outside, so did the chill within her heart. She watched as Clara and Ben played in the small space around the dim fire, their laughter filled with innocent joy that seemed so far removed from her own sorrow. Yet even in their happiness, she sensed an underlying dread. What future could she offer them without support? Her in-laws visited often to check on them, but their presence only brought more despair. They would stand at the door, arms crossed tightly against their chests, shaking their heads at Emma's attempts to make a life for her children. "You'll never manage on your own," they taunted one frosty afternoon. "You were always weak." Finally, one bitter morning, they delivered their ultimatum: Emma must leave. The words struck like lightning, bright and shocking against the gray sky. "We won't have you and those children tarnishing our family name any longer," her father-in-law declared. "Find somewhere else to live or face the consequences." Emma had pleaded with them, desperation flooding her voice as she tried to explain how much she needed them. But their hearts were stone cold. They turned away without a thought for her plight or their grandchildren's future. In that moment, she realized that they were not simply abandoning her, they were casting aside their flesh and blood. With no other option left, Emma gathered what few belongings she could carry and took Clara and Ben into the snowy wilderness. Each step felt heavier as she moved away from a life that had once brought her comfort. The cold seeped into her bones while the weight of betrayal weighed even heavier on her heart. As they trudged through the unforgiving landscape, Emma knew they were truly alone, abandoned in a season of endless white and bitter winds. She vowed to protect her children at all costs, even if it meant facing the harsh world outside alone. But deep down, uncertainty clawed at her spirit like the howling winds surrounding them. Would they survive? Would anyone come to help? The snowstorm descended upon Emma and her children with a ferocity that felt alive, swirling and biting at their exposed skin. The world around them transformed into a ghostly white sea where visibility was reduced to mere feet. Each step they took was a struggle against the powerful gusts of wind that howled like angry spirits, threatening to pull them back into the suffocating depths of the storm. Emma pulled Clara and Ben closer, their small bodies huddled together under the rough grain-sack cloaks she had stitched together with trembling hands. The makeshift garments were a patchwork of faded fabric, but they provided some semblance of warmth against the bitter chill. Emma had done her best to ensure that her children were shielded from the elements, but as the snow piled higher around them, she felt her heart race with fear. "Stay close to me," she called out, her voice barely audible over the howling wind. Clara nodded, her wide eyes filled with both wonder and worry as snowflakes danced around them like tiny stars caught in a wild tempest. Ben clutched his sister's hand tightly, his small frame trembling against the icy gusts. They trudged onward, each step becoming heavier as the snow seeped into their cloaks and weighed them down. Emma's legs burned with exhaustion as she fought against the unforgiving landscape. The cold pierced deeper than just skin, it reached into her bones and threatened to freeze her hope along with her body. "Mommy, I'm cold," Ben whimpered, his voice tinged with despair. Emma's heart ached at his words, but she pushed through the pain as she knelt down beside him. "I know, sweetheart," she whispered softly, brushing a strand of hair away from his forehead. "Just a little further, we'll find somewhere warm soon." As they moved through the relentless storm, Emma's mind raced with thoughts of survival. She could barely recall how long they had been walking, minutes felt like hours in the raging tempest. She fought to stay focused on Clara and Ben, knowing their safety depended on her strength and determination. Suddenly, a fierce gust of wind swept through the trees surrounding them, lifting snow from the ground in swirling flurries that obscured everything in sight. For a moment, Emma lost her bearings completely. Confusion gripped her as she struggled to see even an inch ahead. "Stay together," she shouted again, trying to maintain their little circle of safety against the encroaching storm. She hoped that somehow they would find refuge before exhaustion claimed them all. Just as despair started to take root in Emma's heart, she spotted a flicker of movement, a darker shape amidst the white chaos. It was faint but unmistakable. Hope ignited within her chest like a small flame fighting against overwhelming darkness. With renewed strength born from desperation, she urged her children forward toward that glimmering figure. Through the blinding winds and swirling snowflakes, Emma strained to reach whatever lay ahead, a promise of safety or perhaps a guiding light in this fierce storm that sought to swallow them whole. As Emma and her children inched through the relentless storm, she felt the weight of despair creeping in once more. But just when all hope seemed lost, the shape she had spotted grew clearer, emerging from the blizzard like a beacon through the white chaos. Wolf Eyes, a Cheyenne brave, was no stranger to the wild. With his tall frame and strong build, he moved with a grace that hinted at years spent navigating the harsh elements of the Dakota plains. His dark hair flowed behind him like a banner as he carved a path through the snow. When he caught sight of Emma and her children tucked beneath their grain-sack cloaks, worry etched across his face. "Stay close to me," he called, his voice cutting through the howling wind like an arrow through the air. Emma felt an instant sense of relief at his arrival, finding strength in his presence. His warm eyes scanned her children, noticing their shivering forms and pale faces. Wolf Eyes reached them quickly, kneeling beside Emma as he took in the sight of their frostbitten skin and weary expressions. "You need to come with me," he urged gently as he wrapped his sturdy arms around Clara and Ben, lifting them effortlessly from the freezing ground. Emma couldn't find the words to express her gratitude, all she could do was nod as he motioned for her to follow. Together, they trekked through the blinding storm, Wolf Eyes leading the way with a confidence that soothed Emma's racing heart. He navigated expertly through drifts of snow, each step purposeful as he guided them toward safety. The children nestled against him as though he were a protective shield against the bitter cold that had threatened to consume them. As they approached a cluster of trees, Wolf Eyes pointed toward a buffalo hide lodge that stood sturdy against the storm. Its dark silhouette contrasted sharply with the white landscape, a comforting promise of warmth and shelter. Emma felt her spirits lift at the sight as they hurried inside, escaping from the howling winds that whipped around them like angry spirits. The lodge was cozy and inviting. The scent of smoke filled their nostrils, bringing with it a sense of security they hadn't felt in days. As Wolf Eyes set Clara and Ben down near the fire, he urged them to warm their tiny hands against the flames flickering to life in the hearth. "Rest now," he said softly to Emma, his voice smooth despite the chaos outside. "You are safe here." Emma watched as her children settled on the soft ground surrounding the fire. The heat began to penetrate their chilled bodies, and she felt hope surge within her once more. With every passing moment, she saw their little faces soften into relaxed expressions, warmth cradling them into peacefulness. "Thank you," Emma finally managed to whisper hoarsely, meeting Wolf Eyes' compassionate gaze. In that moment of vulnerability and gratitude, she realized that this brave man had brought not only warmth, but also a glimmer of hope in a season that had been soaked in darkness. Wolf Eyes nodded, an understanding glint in his eyes. He had done more than just provide shelter. He had rekindled Emma's belief that perhaps together they could find strength against whatever lay ahead in their uncertain future. As the warmth of the fire enveloped them, Emma sat on the soft ground of the buffalo hide lodge, watching as Wolf Eyes moved about with purpose. His movements were fluid and sure, and he seemed to know instinctively what needed to be done. The fire flickered, casting a warm glow that illuminated the worried faces of Clara and Ben, who were now beginning to feel the comfort of safety for the first time in days. Wolf Eyes noticed their tired, pale cheeks and quickly set to work. He poured steaming broth from a clay pot into wooden bowls, filling the air with a rich smell that made Emma's stomach rumble. "Here," he said gently, handing each child a bowl filled with nourishing soup. "Drink this, it will help you feel strong again." Clara took a sip first, her face lighting up with surprise at the warmth sliding down her throat. "It's so good," she exclaimed, her small hands clutching the bowl tightly. Ben watched his sister, a hint of a smile breaking through his earlier distress as he took his turn. For a moment, their worries melted away in the soothing embrace of food and warmth. While they ate, Emma felt her muscles begin to relax for the first time since they had fled from their old life. She looked over at Wolf Eyes as he tended to the fire, adding more wood with careful hands. His face was set in concentration, but every now and then he would glance over at them with a warm smile that filled Emma with gratitude. Once they finished eating, Wolf Eyes gathered some thick blankets from a nearby pile and brought them over. "You need to keep warm," he said softly as he draped one around each child. Emma couldn't help but notice how gentle his touch was. His hands were strong yet tender, carefully adjusting the blankets without causing discomfort. "Thank you," she managed to say, her voice shaky but filled with sincerity. The kindness he displayed in such simple acts touched her heart deeply. With the children snuggled close and wrapped in warmth, Wolf Eyes settled beside Emma on the ground. He spoke softly about his life in the Cheyenne tribe, the stories of bravery and love that made up his people's history. As he spoke, Emma found herself captivated not only by his tales, but also by his ability to draw them into a world where hope existed amidst danger and hardship. "I lost my family too," Wolf Eyes revealed quietly after a while, "and it is painful, but helping others brings strength." He glanced at Clara and Ben, who were now resting peacefully against him as sleep overtook their weary bodies. "I wanted you to know you are not alone anymore." In that moment, Emma recognized that his kindness stemmed from shared sorrow. Their stories intertwined in ways she never expected. Both had faced loss and endured struggle but had found themselves on this unexpected path together. As the fire crackled softly in the background, filling the lodge with warmth and light, Emma began to envision possibilities for their future, ones she could not have imagined just hours before. With Wolf Eyes by their side, perhaps they could navigate this harsh world together, finding comfort in each other's strength as they healed through shared kindness and care. As winter melted away and spring crept into the Dakota landscape, Emma felt a mixture of relief and trepidation. The once blanketed fields of snow transformed into patches of green grass, crocuses daring to bloom amidst the thawing earth. The air carried a hint of warmth, and for the first time in months, Emma could breathe without the weight of ice on her chest. Clara and Ben ran joyfully outside the lodge, their laughter ringing like music as they played in the newfound sunshine. Yet, beneath this cheerful facade lay a growing sense of unease. The thawing snow revealed not only signs of life but also fresh challenges that loomed on the horizon. Emma's heart sank as she recalled her in-laws' harsh words before winter enveloped them. The fear of their return lingered like a shadow at the back of her mind. One morning, as she prepared breakfast for her children, she caught sight of movement at the edge of the forest. Her heart raced as she squinted against the sunlight, recognizing the familiar figures that emerged from the tree-line, her in-laws. Dressed in dark clothing that seemed to absorb all light around them, they approached with grim expressions etched on their faces. "Emma," her mother-in-law called out sharply, voice cutting through the morning air like a knife. "You've gone too far this time. You must come back with us." Emma's stomach twisted with dread as she stepped outside to face them. "I cannot go back," she replied firmly, though uncertainty flickered within her. "This is my home now." Her father-in-law stepped forward, his brows knitted together in disapproval. "You think you can raise those children alone? You are unfit to care for them without us." His words stung like icy wind against bare skin. Emma felt her resolve strengthen even as anxiety coursed through her veins. She glanced back at Wolf Eyes, who stood just inside the lodge, watching intently. His presence provided a shield against their cruelty and reminded her that she was not alone in this fight. "They are safe here," Wolf Eyes said calmly as he stepped outside to join Emma by her side. "They have found love and care among us." His strong voice was steady and comforting. The in-laws' eyes narrowed at him, their disdain evident. "You think a savage can replace family?" Her mother-in-law spat, contempt dripping from every word. Emma took a deep breath, feeling emboldened by Wolf Eyes' support. "What you call savage is what has kept my children safe and warm through this winter," she stated defiantly. "You abandoned us when we needed you most." Clara and Ben appeared by Emma's side, holding onto her skirts as though they sensed the tension brewing in the air. They looked up at Wolf Eyes with trust shining in their innocent eyes, a trust that their grandparents could never understand. "We will not allow you to take them," Wolf Eyes declared firmly, standing tall beside Emma as if he were a mountain against their stormy insistence. Realization dawned on Emma. This was not just about survival anymore, it was about choosing love over fear and reclaiming her destiny as a mother. With every heartbeat echoing with determination, she stood resolute against her in-laws' threats, ready to protect her children at all costs. Spring had brought challenges anew, but also an unwavering strength within Emma. A strength fortified by love and supported by Wolf Eyes' bravery. Together, they would face whatever storms lay ahead. The tension in the air was palpable as Emma stood beside Wolf Eyes, facing her in-laws with a mixture of fear and determination. Their disdainful glares pierced through her like icy daggers, but she felt a surge of strength flowing from the brave warrior beside her. Wolf Eyes stood tall and unwavering, his presence both protective and reassuring, like a sturdy tree amidst a hurricane. "Let us speak plainly," Emma, her father-in-law, said, his voice dripping with authority. "You think you can care for those children alone? You are utterly unfit to raise them without our guidance." Wolf Eyes stepped forward slightly, his fierce gaze locked onto each of Emma's in-laws. "Your words carry no weight here," he declared firmly. "Emma has cared for her children with love and strength while you abandoned them in their time of need. They are happy and safe with us." The father-in-law flinched at Wolf Eyes' direct challenge, but he quickly regained his composure, sneering at the Cheyenne brave. "You may think yourself noble for taking in a widow, but you have no right to interfere with family matters." Emma placed a hand on Wolf Eyes' arm, feeling the powerful muscles beneath the surface. His resolve radiated calmness that soothed her own fears. "But I am their mother," she said, standing taller as she met her in-laws' icy stares. "My love for them is all they need." The mother-in-law scoffed at Emma's words, shaking her head as if dismissing a child's naive dream. "Love doesn't provide food or shelter. You are lost without us." The bitterness in her voice echoed through the clearing, attempting to sow doubt in Emma's heart. Wolf Eyes turned slightly to face Emma, lowering his voice so only she could hear. "Do not let them intimidate you," he urged fiercely. "You have survived much worse than this." With those words infused with encouragement, Emma felt a flicker of hope reignite within her. "Because of him," she replied defiantly, gesturing toward Wolf Eyes. "Because we found each other and built a home together." "Home?" Her father-in-law scoffed again. "This is not your home, you belong with us. Come back before it is too late." "I will not go back to a place where my children are not valued," Emma said firmly, feeling the weight of her old life lift off her shoulders. She squeezed Wolf Eyes' arm tightly, knowing there was no turning back now. Wolf Eyes positioned himself between Emma and her in-laws, shielding her and the children as if they were treasures he had sworn to protect at all costs. His fierce expression conveyed that he would fight to keep them safe from anyone who threatened their newfound happiness. With his posture steady and defiant against their accusations, he turned once more to face the intruders. "If you wish to take them from here," he warned calmly yet fiercely, "you will have to go through me first." At that moment, it was clear that Wolf Eyes was not just fighting for Emma or the children, he was also battling for their shared future and the love they had forged amidst hardship. The ramifications of this confrontation lingered heavy in the air, a test of wills where love clashed against cruelty. Emma felt empowered by Wolf Eyes' bravery. Together they represented resilience against the shadows of betrayal that threatened their peace. With unwavering determination burning brightly in her heart, Emma knew that as long as they stood united, they could face anything that lay ahead, no matter how daunting it might seem. As the days turned into weeks, the thawing landscape blossomed with life, and Emma began to feel a sense of belonging within Wolf Eyes' community. The initial apprehension that had clung to her like a shadow faded as she witnessed the kindness and warmth extended by the Cheyenne people. They welcomed her and her children with open arms, treating them not as outsiders but as cherished members of their extended family. Emma marveled at how Clara and Ben flourished in this nurturing environment. Children from the tribe flocked to play with them, sharing laughter and games that echoed through the vibrant meadows. The joyful sounds of childhood filled the air, a stark contrast to the loneliness Emma had endured before. She watched her children run freely, their faces lit up with happiness, and felt an overwhelming surge of gratitude toward Wolf Eyes for bringing them to this place. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink, Wolf Eyes invited Emma to join him for a gathering at the lodge. The community had come together to celebrate the arrival of spring. The aroma of roasting meat wafted through the air, mingling with laughter and lively chatter. Emma felt a flutter of nerves as she entered the circle of people gathered around the fire, but Wolf Eyes stood beside her, radiating support. "Thank you for honoring us by joining our celebration," a wise elder said warmly as he approached them. Emma felt a wave of acceptance wash over her as he clasped her hands in his. You are now part of our family and we rejoice in your presence. As the night unfolded, stories were shared, tales of bravery, loss, and hope woven into the fabric of their lives. Wolf Eyes spoke proudly of Emma's strength in overcoming adversity, his words lifting her spirit higher than she thought possible. In that moment, surrounded by laughter and love, Emma realized that this was more than just survival. They were building a home filled with loyalty and compassion. While others danced around the fire, Clara and Ben were swept up in the joy, their little feet moving rhythmically to the drum's beat. Emma smiled as she watched them blend seamlessly into this new world, a world where they were cherished and valued. The warmth of their acceptance wrapped around her like a blanket on a cold night. However, amidst this newfound joy, Emma remained aware of her past. The memories of her in-laws' harshness lingered like distant thunderclouds on the horizon. Yet each time doubt crept back into her mind, she found solace in Wolf Eyes' unwavering presence beside her. He had become not only her protector but also a source of inspiration, reminding her that family is not solely defined by blood but by love and loyalty. Days turned into months as spring blossomed into summer, solidifying their bond with each passing moment spent together. Sharing simple meals became cherished rituals, laughter rang out during storytelling sessions under starry skies. Emma felt herself healing, not just from physical wounds but from emotional scars too. In this vibrant community, she discovered strength within herself she never knew existed, a fierce loyalty to protect her children and create a home filled with love. Wolf Eyes stood steadfastly beside her, embodying the principles of loyalty and family they both held dear. Together they forged a path forward, one built on mutual respect and dedication to each other. As summer approached its peak, Emma understood that she had found not only safety but also a heartwarming definition of family, a tapestry woven with threads of resilience, love, and unwavering support that would guide them through whatever challenges still lay ahead. As summer reached its height, the warmth of the sun mirrored the growing bond between Emma and Wolf Eyes, creating a sense of unity that encapsulated their lives. The vibrant colors of blooming wildflowers painted the landscape, symbolizing new beginnings and the hope that blossomed within Emma's heart. She had come so far from the icy depths of despair, and with each passing day, she felt more certain of her place in this community. Emma often found herself reflecting on her journey, the hardships she had faced, the bitter cold of winter, and the emotional scars left by her in-laws. Yet now, surrounded by laughter and joy, she realized that those challenges had shaped her into a stronger woman. The love and care she experienced with Wolf Eyes and his people had filled the void left by her past and helped her envision a brighter future for herself and her children. One sunny afternoon, Emma stood outside their shared lodge, watching Clara and Ben play with other children from the tribe. Their laughter floated on the warm breeze, filling her with happiness. Wolf Eyes approached her, his presence steady and reassuring as he leaned against the doorframe, a soft smile playing on his lips. They are happy, he remarked, nodding toward the children with pride. Emma felt warmth spread in her chest at his words. It's all because of you, she replied sincerely. You've given us so much more than just shelter, you've given us a home. Their eyes met, and in that moment, Emma recognized not just gratitude but an undeniable connection, a bond forged through shared experiences that transcended words. They had both found a way to heal from their pasts by supporting one another. Wolf Eyes had become her protector, her confidant, and in many ways, Emma found herself falling for him, a realization that filled her heart with both joy and trepidation. As summer continued to unfold, Emma made a conscious decision to stand by Wolf Eyes, fully embracing this life they were building together. She wanted to be a part of this community, not just as a guest but as someone who belonged. With every gathering attended and story shared around the fire, Emma felt more firmly rooted in this new world. One evening, as the sun set over the horizon, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and purple, Wolf Eyes gathered everyone around the fire for a special ceremony. He spoke eloquently about family and loyalty, emphasizing how love united them all. Emma listened intently, her heart swelling with pride for both him and herself. When it was her turn to speak, she took a deep breath, feeling all eyes upon her. I want to thank you all for welcoming us into your lives, she began, glancing at Wolf Eyes before continuing. You have shown me that family is not defined by blood but by love and loyalty. I choose to stand by those who care for me and my children. Wolf Eyes smiled at her words, his gaze filled with admiration. As she looked into his eyes, Emma saw a future filled with promise, a life built on mutual respect and unwavering support. In that moment, under the vast sky filled with stars, Emma knew she had truly found home. With Wolf Eyes beside her, she felt hopeful about whatever challenges lay ahead. Together, they would forge their path, united by love and resilience as they embraced every new dawn together. The future was theirs to shape, bright and full of possibilities awaiting them on the horizon.